Welcome to the Rue Papers.
Okay, is this thing working? Jack, I'm not sure. Well, Okay, fine. It's working. It's working. It's fine. Okay, this is Mo McGowan, researcher at Rue, doing a statement on behalf of Jacqueline Bartlett, our leader, our fearless leader. She says, everyone here has a story, and she wants to hear my story, which is fine. What? The date? Okay, 6th of June 1938. And this is my story. Okay, so this happened when I was 5 years old. And, well, I had a posh upbringing, I suppose you could say. And I had a nursery all to myself. And the wallpaper had all kinds of vines and leaves printed on them. And I was allowed to draw on them. I was given a big box of charcoal and told I could draw whatever I liked. I think it was supposed to inspire my artistic sensibilities or something. Or perhaps it was supposed to stop me drawing on the walls of the rest of the house. By the way, that trick doesn't work. As far as I was concerned, the entire world was my canvas. So I drew all over the walls, anything I liked. Bunnies and pigs and strange little goblins and things like that. But there was one place I never drew. The corner by the door. There was a nice blank patch there. I could have drawn something spectacular, but somehow it never seemed right. Anyway, one morning I picked up my charcoal, went to draw, and saw that there was something on that wall. Just a single line, slightly curving. I hadn't put it there. I licked my finger and rubbed the charcoal off the wall, and it came off. And I made sure I stayed far away from that corner that day. The next day there were 2 lines. I rubbed them off, and the next day there were 3. And they seemed to be taking on an approximation of a face. I rubbed them off again, and then I went and got all the charcoal in the room and threw it away. No more charcoal. No one could draw. But the lines appeared the next day too. A grey smudge on the wallpaper. I pointed it out to my mother, and she said it was damp coming through. I tried to make her see that it was a face, but she just looked at it and said, well, lots of things look like faces, and they aren't really, so she couldn't see it. Well, I was scared, but I was little. I just ignored it as more and more lines appeared. And then one day I could see there was a shadow, and I reached out, and the wallpaper was bulging out. Not a big bulge, but little bulges. And as I ran my fingers over the bulges, I realized it was lips and a nose and cheeks. It was a face. I told my mother I didn't want to sleep in there anymore, and that I wanted to be in a different room, but you know what these indulgent parents can be like. There's one thing they'll fixate upon and that they'll insist upon. And that was, I slept in that nursery, no matter what I said. So I did. That night, that very night, I think it must have been that night, I woke up, and in the moonlight, I could see the shadows on the wall, and then I saw something else. Something very white, very pale. A hand reaching out of the wall towards me. I screamed, and my parents came rushing in, and I told them what I had seen, and they told me it was just a nightmare. There was nothing in the wall, and I was not to be a silly girl, and I was to go back to sleep. So I think that was my first experience of not being believed. The next day, I studied what was there. An entire outline of a woman, and a face, and a hand. And I was so scared, Jack. So scared. I didn't want to sleep in darkness that night, so I stole an oil lamp from the kitchen and matches. And when darkness fell, I lit the oil lamp, and I just sat there and waited. It was about 2 o'clock in the morning, I suppose. I'd been awake all night. And I heard a sound like paper falling to the floor. I looked up, and the shadow on the wall was slipping downwards like a dress falling off a person. It puddled onto the floor, and I couldn't see it anymore, and I thought perhaps it had gone. But then I heard it, breathing, harsh breath, like it was forcing itself to draw in air. And then I saw the hand appear on the edge of my toy box at the foot of my bed. It grasped the edge of the box, pulled itself up. And then the second hand, and then the face appeared over the edge. It was blank, just white, with shadows where the eyes and the nose and the mouth should be, but somehow still I could tell it hated me. It crawled over the toy box. More like something liquid, really, pulling itself up, but not with any shape. Then it grasped the bottom of my bed, and in a panic I threw the oil lamp at it. The lamp shattered, but not on the creature. It went straight through and shattered on the far wall. And immediately, of course, flames shot up across the wall, across the door, and I screamed and screamed again. And luckily my parents rushed in and they grabbed me and ran out as the fire took hold. We barely escaped with our lives. I still have scars. As we stood outside, my father holding me in his arms, I heard him suddenly cry out, "What the hell is that?" And we looked up. There was a shadow in the flames, against the window, staring down at us. And then my mother said, "She's back." And that was all. I never got an explanation as to who she was, and my parents insisted that I'd had a nightmare. And they took all the oil lamps out of the house. I've never known what it was. But I wanted to. Ever since then, I've wanted to know what is really happening. And that is why I joined Rue. Thank you for listening to the Rue Papers. Created, written and performed by Emma Butler. For bonus materials, please visit my Patreon. And don't forget, listeners, some stories should never be read.